What does the train mean in Miss Marvel, you ask? You know, the vision of the train that Kamala Khan keeps getting treated to. Now at least once per episode in the last 3 episodes in the Miss Marvel miniseries currently on Disney+. What does it mean to Kamala as both a person and a superhero? I'm sorry, Perez the DODC enhanced individual. And why do we as audience members care about the train imagery? What's the blink and you missed it Easter egg that forecasts the fate of Aisha? Well, now we're going to discuss all of that right here and right now. Welcome back to the Mama Saga, where this Marvel-loving mama is a mother by day, but breaks down comic book sagas, movies, and shows like Miss Marvel by night. Okay, so just as a matter of CYA, before we go any further, I'll just issue a warning. Spoiler alert! There are spoilers in this video, so if you haven't watched all 4 episodes of Miss Marvel yet, because we're gonna go through at least some parts of them to discuss the train vision and imagery in this video, well, if you need to catch up on the miniseries so far, then you might want to exit this video and go watch it all and then come back. Otherwise, ready to go? Okay, we're gonna go through what the train itself relates to, what it means, and then we're gonna discuss how that train affects Kamala, Sana, Muneeba, and yes, even Aisha, because we're gonna wrap up this video at the end with my theory as to whether or not Aisha's still alive. Ready? First, let's get into what the train itself means. Sure. By now, you're like, okay, Stacey, I've seen all of the episodes of Miss Marvel that's dropped to date, all 4 of them. I know that Kamala has been seeing visions since she first put on the bangle in episode 1 of Miss Marvel, and by episodes 2, 3, and 4, Kamala's been seeing visions of a train, or at least hearing a train or locomotive engine when she's being treated to another image besides a train. Basically, since episode 2, Kamala's visions have very specifically been train-related, but the first vision she got might very well be related to a train too. I'll get to why I say that in a minute. But anytime a train appears, we're not just talking about any old train. And the train has a connotation that is more than what you think it is in a straightforward 2-dimensional sense. Stick with me here. Look, sure, I believe every time Kamala has heard and or seen a train in her visions, it's been the specific train that her grandmother Sana and Sana's father managed to get on to leave India and enter into Karachi, Pakistan, following the partition of what used to be British-occupied India. There's more to it than that, though. I've covered the partition and its specific effects on Kamalas Family in a video I've recently done entitled Miss Marvel's Great-Grandmother. So if you missed that video, be sure to check it out after you're done watching this video. But suffice it to say that the partition affected many families who were split from their friends and neighbors along a seemingly arbitrary borderline that was created by, according to Sana, Kamala's nanny, old Englishmen that created it when they were fleeing the country. When the British left, tumult definitely ensued, leaving an emotional and intellectual scar on the lives and memories of many who were alive during that generation and were affected by the outcome and the aftermath of the partition. But every vision that Kamala has had so far, I argue, was connected to the train. Even the very first vision she had when she first put on the bangle and it was activated at AvengerCon in episode 1. If you see the artwork that Kamala's nanny created, which is showcased in episode 4, when Kamala and Muneeba travel to Karachi to stay with Nanny, you can see one piece of artwork that is, to me, a callback to the huddled grouping of humanity that were present with Kamala's first vision in episode 1. Kamala's bloodline is connected to that train, and at the end of episode 4, after Najma strikes the bangle with her weapon, Kamala is thrust back in time to the night of that last round of trains leaving India to travel to Karachi, when Sana and her father left thanks to Aisha's intervention. And guess what? Just like in the vision, there are crowds of humanity huddling about, grouping about, lost in chaos. In episode 4, Sana specifically tells Kamala that the bangle was last used by Aisha to save Sana on that special night, and then otherwise apparently it wasn't used again until Kamala used it in Jersey City, New Jersey at AvengerCon. This is important. I'll explain in a minute. The train vision also came to Kamala in episode 2, showing her an image of Najma, who appeared at the very end of that same episode. In episode 3, while Kamala was fighting Najma off, she and Najma both seemed to be struck by the light and the vision of the train coming from Karachi, and Kamala managed to break free and escape soon after that happened. There's another piece of train imagery in episode 4 over and above what I mentioned already that I'll discuss in great detail in a moment once we get to whether or not I think Aisha's still alive, so hang tight. But you should understand that from a storytelling and or screenwriting perspective, the train itself is symbolic for certain things that were going on, not just during the partition in general, but what is transpiring on a personal level for Kamala's family, one member at a time. A train you see in a dream or a vision can symbolize connection, forward progress, new opportunities, power, and strength. When one sees a train in a vision or dream, it can mean that you're not too far away from realizing your goals, but you have to exert yourself and get moving so that you can get what you want. It can also mean that you're a one-track mind, needing to adopt a greater sense of flexibility and patience. Dreaming of a train can also mean that you need to take a long-term view of things. It could also mean that your long-term plans are changing. Trains really can symbolize connection to others, or they're symbolic of one's longing to connect with another person far away. There can also be a hint of a desire on your part when you dream of a train to reach the next level of evolution in your life, personally or professionally. Now, what the heck could all of this mean? Well, good question. So now we're on to how the train affects Kamala's family. Personally, I feel that the train symbolism means that there is still a connection to Aisha that we have yet to explore in this series. The train visions are not just representative of the trials and tribulations of Kamala's Indian-based bloodline, kith and kin, as a result of the partition of 1947. I mean, sure, that's part of it, but this is a powerful recurring theme in the Ms. Marvel miniseries, and it means a whole lot more than that. Really great writing isn't two-dimensional, it's three-dimensional, it's layered, just like the Noor dimension is layered right over our own, as we learned from Waleed of the Red Daggers in episode 4. Sure, the train visions led to the connection of Kamala and Sana. Remember at the end of episode 3, Nani kept asking Kamala, "Did you see the train too, Bitta?" Yes, Kamala did, and she flew to Pakistan because of it. I bet you Muneeba saw the visions too, but doesn't want to tell anyone, or she refuses to allow herself to treat the vision seriously or to connect the dots in terms of what they mean. The train symbolism, all 3D style, can mean that Kamala is on a new path that if she continues to exert herself will lead to growth, change, and the next level in her life, both personally and as a superhero, or enhanced individual as the DODC calls it. I've theorized that Kamala is going up against one of the biggest big bads ever, and she'll therefore need to keep evolving in terms of her powers and her mastery of them if she's ever going to defeat him in either Phase 5 or Phase 6 of the MCU. If you've missed my video, How Does Ms. Marvel and Ant-Man Connect?, you've got to see that video too. You may as well subscribe while we're at it. As we move into the final 2 episodes of Ms. Marvel, of course, Kamala's got to keep moving. She's getting closer to her goal of understanding the truth that lies behind her family's powers and what she ultimately needs to do and who she ultimately needs to become. Kamala's taking a long-term view of where her powers and the Bangle 2 can take her and can certainly help her out as she continues to evolve and grow in the MCU. She loves being a superhero, and with every episode appears to be leaning into the role more and more with great confidence. But that's Kamala. Sana is also in process with who she really is post-partition and says so to Kamala and acknowledges that she has to figure all of that out. She's working things out with a long-term view, though, joking when it comes to figuring things out, what's the rush? She's on her path, doing the work of processing her thoughts and feelings through all of her artwork, like any true creative would do. And she's flexible and open to whatever comes. Muneeba, on the other hand, per the train imagery, needs to become more flexible and not have such a one-track mind when it comes to avoiding the uncomfortable truths that her mother Sana had tried multiple times to share with her about her own grandmother, Aisha. But now we have to examine the question, is Aisha still alive? In episode 4, sure, we're treated to Nanny's artwork about the partition. You see trains, and yes, Kamala's seemingly transported back in time to the train station where Sana and her father got on. But also, before then, Kamala goes to visit the Karachi train station where her grandmother Sana first entered Pakistan. She sees a sign that says, "Notice to visitors, you are under surveillance. We are currently in the process of historical renovation. Your patience is appreciated as we restore this section of Karachi Station to its originally constructed beauty." Nothing, and I mean nothing, really appears in any part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe related property for no apparent reason. I really do think that this is a sign and a hint, theoretically, that Kamala's full maternal bloodline will be restored and that Aisha will be alive and find her way to her family once more. If what Sana said was true in episode 4, specifically that while the bangle was in her possession, it was never used, when Aisha was separated from her family during the partition, she had no way of locating her family once more. The bangle wasn't used from the time Aisha used it to save Sana in 1947 until recently, when Kamala first began using it in episode 1 at AvengerCon. What did Red Dagger say in episode 4? Kareem, I mean. He was able to track Kamala because of the Noor. Najma said in episode 3 that the clandestines were able to track Kamala because of the bangle, really the Noor. So guess what? Aisha can certainly track Kamala now too, because of the Noor and the use of the bangle itself. Wherever she got off to, however far away she is, I bet she can become reunited with her earthly bloodline. And it just might take a little bit for her to do so. I don't think she's dead. There's been way too many references to her throughout this series for her to be dead. And I think there's a few Easter eggs that have accrued until this point that tells us that more connections will be made and things will ultimately be restored to what it was years ago. Anyway, you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok and subscribe to the Mama Saga for more comic book saga breakdowns, Salty Mama style. Thanks for watching, take care, and see you next time.